Hi everyone, my name is Shane. I'm the head physio here at Pro Sport Physiotherapy and I'm the head coach of the Pro Sport Academy. And I just wanted to share with you today a really simple but powerful tool that you can pretty much implement straight away with your initial assessments. And this is a really big help in terms of both the therapist actually understanding the problem and solution, and then more importantly, being able to explain that well enough to the patient so that they understand the problem and they know the work that needs to be done in terms of fixing that problem. So this is really important for steps 1 and 2 of our business growth plan. Again, I'll link that blog below so you can kind of understand that. And basically what that's really important for is that if the patient understands the problem and the solution, which again, a prerequisite to that is the therapist needs to understand it, but if both of those things happen, it's much more likely that the patient is going to buy into the treatment plan. They're going to commit to those however many sessions it's going to take to get right, and not just getting out of pain, but really making sure that this problem is not going to come back again. Okay, so the real power with this is given a visual representation of all of the stressors that patient's been through in the past. Okay, so a really simple example: if I've got somebody coming into me with a left Achilles, okay, so they get left Achilles pain when running, let's say for argument's sake. Now, so that's their current problem. Now, if we went through this person's history, now let's say 2 years ago, they started to suffer from a right ankle sprain. Okay, they got a right ankle sprain 2 years ago, recovered from that fine, got back running okay. Again, maybe 18 months ago, started to get a right knee niggle. Okay, so maybe then 12 months ago, started with some lower back pain, and now started to get this Achilles problem. Okay, so now if I don't go through this history well enough and I don't really draw this out, first of all, in my own head, it's going to be very easy to focus on this left leg, okay? Because that's where the problem is, that's where the pain is, that's where I'm going to probably spend a lot of my time. But if I've drawn this chart out, when I start to think about it, actually, when we look at all of his previous injuries, it's mainly right-sided. And if we don't kind of get this out, where these right-sided problems that have come on, we might be missing a really big trick in terms of a rehab. So we might be fine for the first 2 or 3 sessions when we're desensitizing the left Achilles and getting it loading again. But when they go back running, more than likely, if it's really a right-sided problem, that left Achilles pain or is going to come back, or it's just going to go somewhere else, maybe the left knee or left hip or something's going to start getting sore instead. Now, again, more than likely, based on his history, he's had some motor adaptations in response to these previous stresses on the right leg. Maybe his brain is now subconsciously offloading that right leg and sending more forces over towards his left leg, and that's why that left Achilles has got overloaded, okay? Now, if I just explain that to the patient, they may or may not buy in, they may or may not get it, but when you draw it out like this and they can really kind of see it again, it's much easier to process and understand and remember visual information than it is for auditory information. So if I'm just explaining it, they may or may not get it, they may or may not remember it, but if we draw it out like this, it's going to be a lot easier for them to see and understand how these right-sided injuries may be affecting the left Achilles. So I'm still going to treat the left Achilles, but my rehab now is going to be, I'm going to definitely be doing stuff around this right leg, or I'm at least going to check it, okay? So it may or may not be affecting his left Achilles at the moment, but based on the history, that's my hypothesis, and I'm going to prove or disprove that hypothesis with my assessment, okay? But again, just drawing it out is really, really powerful for the patient. Now, where I find this particularly useful is when you get really complex cases with a lot of different history. So they might have a lot more injuries along here. Again, your chart might be spanning 20 years here. And again, we don't have to draw everything down, but if we draw the big ones, again, you might have other things like a bereavement. Again, that's going to be a massive emotional stressor. You might have something else along the line. So drawing all these things out, all it's going to do for us is we can take a picture of that, we can come back to it every session, and we're just going to chip away at all of these different stressors. Again, probably starting with the biggest ones. Again, a nice question I like to ask clients is, looking back at this, is there any of these injuries that you would say you've never been the same since? And again, that's going to be one of the ones that we'll look at, and then we'll just chip away at all of the rest of them and then see where we go from there. So again, I'd advise you to start with this straight away, implement it with your next initial assessment, and just keep constantly working on improving that, because it really, really does help in terms of being able to explain things to the patient and making sure they buy into the treatment plan.